Good morning, poetry freaks. Welcome to Breakfast Poetry Live, day 4 of National Poetry Month 2026. I got my cigarette girl mug. This was an embroidery on a hoop, and originally she had her cigarette. She probably does. It just got her head and shoulders. But I know the caption was, "Why, Lord?" Snapped up by an Australian friend years ago, 4, 3, 7, 8 years ago. So welcome, welcome, welcome. And we're going to start the day with some of our poetry inspiration from the Daily Baroness. I have the block over here. I should get the print. The print is in the living room, but here's the block. This is backwards of well, I don't know if it'll be backwards on a live stream, but maybe a familiar photo you may have seen of Baroness Elsa von Freytag Loringhoven, who was the first American Dada back in the 1910s, 1920s. And I have done some prints of this, but I will just show the block for now because they're all the way over in the living room. Daily Baroness, she was a creature of art and body poetry. So we're going to look at a phrase or two from her to inspire the day. This National Poetry Month: electric heart, panicky soul, carrion feeding, spirit cannibal. And the name of that poem is Perpetuity. That's not the whole poem, it's just a slice. Electric heart, panicky soul, carrion feeding, spirit cannibal. Perpetuity. From Elsa von Freytag Loringhoven, the Baroness. And I really want to get it together this 4-day weekend and create an episode of Poetry Freaks about her good self. Died in 1927. Her poetry, her big poetry book, Body Sweats, her collection, her body of work didn't come to light until many years later. It was either 2008 or 2018. I need to look. I keep saying that. But welcome to YouTube version. The first 3 days are on Instagram. It may be something I go in between, depending on if I'm on my way to work and I need to do this and it's not one is not cooperating, I'll use the other. But so far so good. And also it's a 4-day weekend. So today we have our leisure. We have our Daily Baroness. I am going to read yesterday's prompt's poem. And the prompt from the game Poetry Freaks, created by my husband and contributed some things myself to that game, Poetry Freaks at Nerd Glows On at drivethrurpg.com. We rolled the D30 for Poetic Mood and got Criminal Fascination. We rolled the D100 for the beautiful word, which was ineffable. I wrote inevitable, but it's ineffable. I think both words appear in the poem. Sum Total Radiance was our, from X-Ray, the poem by the Baron. That was our Baroness contribution. I'm looking at my chords. I'm going to add a little auto harp to this because you know why? It's a 4-day weekend and freedom and the Baroness inspires. All right, here we go. And that prompt again, Criminal Fascination, ineffable, Sum Total Radiance. I defend my criminal fascination with any flavored Jell-O and Cool Whip salad with marshmallows. The cemeteries are filled with church potluck recipes of this kind, imprinted on melted brain cells soaked into Easter hats and funeral satin. I protect my criminal fascination with 5 ways to brew the coffee. French press, pour over coffee maker, percolator, espresso pot on the stove. There's too much to do that isn't poetry. The poetic urge is too cartoonish to speak. Ineffable, inevitable. Last week's laundry remains in a basket unfolded, where a couple of song and dance people. Ultimate outcome radiance. Ultimate outcome radiance. Thank you, autoharp. I love you so much. And that is yesterday's from, whoo, you put down an autoharp, it goes, whoa, makes a haunted sound. That was yesterday's poem. The poem I wrote yesterday / this morning to the prompt from yesterday. And so now the next thing we do is string a pearl. And I'm going to explain string of pearls briefly, and then I'll probably go into more detail because it's String of Pearls Saturday. Every day. Okay, months leading up to National Poetry Month, I compose phrases, little lines of poetry, cut them up, put them in a can, draw one a day, every day in April. So that's 30 lines. The 30-line poem emerges with the help of the universe. So to the end of the month, we have a complete poem for 5 years now. This is the 5th. I have released an ebook with the poem and also with block prints that I write the lines on. This is just one example, little 3-strand pearls. String of pearls is the theme this year. Past themes have been sweater poems, poetry hats, what came between hot breakfast coffee, the poet's bowl last year, and this year's string of pearls. So the pearls theme, I'm going to be wearing my beads every day. Here is our line: don't envy the witch in her. And we will see how it all fits together at the end of the month. Don't envy the witch in her. Autobiographical? You decide. All right, we strung a pearl, and it's String of Pearls Saturday. So I'm going to get my little binder, my nerd binder of, I've been preparing. I'm going to confess that I've been preparing for National Poetry Month since January, because I work in a school, which is my 3rd year, and I think it's a great year. But it took me a while to adjust, and also there were some less than great years. I'm in the behavior room, and there were some difficult behaviors. Pardon me while I take a sip of coffee. Anyhow, survival through, after Christmas break is over, which is such a fairyland, right? You get a job where you get 2 weeks off of Christmas. And then what do? You wait the long slog until May. No, you prepare for National Poetry Month. And I have a binder, and I got a big calendar, and woo! One of these days I'm going to make Emily Dickinson's gingerbread. Just tune in. But I'm going to read last year's String of Pearls poem as it emerged line by line back in 2022, 3, 1? Yes, 2021. Sweater poem. Adagio, damn it. Opera machine. Now a sonnet for the crushing smile and rotten teeth. These eyes are none of my doing. Scat to blues ending. In blessing I kiss your navel. A little moon jazz, cookie trippin', smearing glittery insanity. A little bent upstairs. Hush, I'm making love to my breakfast. You are incorrect about the sky. Request thrashing love song for short chicks. Okay, done praying, let's get drunk. Life is like a river, it don't give a shit. Arrive, devastate, vanish. No, it's cool. I'm getting at home with my nothingness. I am no disgruntled artist. Hello from your favorite malcontent, special poetical dispensation. Sort of angry all the time. Immer böse. Quite calm never. Nie ruhig. Nature's all ha 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 ha. One haze on top of another. Spewing moon truths. This dish ran away with the moon. And with that, the philosopher fell on his ass. I floss loudly to prove my worth. Nefarious plans to obtain donut. Let the poetry have you. Emotional splatter zone. Blathering? No, it's confessional poetry. Oh, thank you. And that is Sweater Poems from, it had to be 2021, right? Okay, I'm sorry, I'm going to be tedious. Sweater Poems. And the next one, which was Poetry Hats. And the next one, which was, how come I can't remember them when I need to name them? The third one, which was Hot Breakfast Coffee, Poet's Bowl, and the 5th year. So 2021, 22, 23, 24, 25. No, so it was 2022 that we did Sweater Poems. Sweater Poem is the name because it's one long poem. It will be an ebook at the end of the month when we finish String of Pearls, our theme for this year's String of Pearls poem, a form I like to think I invented. Correct me if I'm wrong. I would love some outreach. But so it will be one long poem at the end of the month. Ebook this year and last year. I will also include some sort of hardcover or soft cover. What do I say? Hard copy, paperback or hardback, maybe both, because you just hit a button and you could do another one. So we have Strung a Pearl. Thank you for your attention. We have already passed String of Pearls, starting Sweater Poems, first one. And finally, for our National Poetry Month, Breakfast Poetry Live, inspirations and discussions of poetry. Today's prompt, the theme, is Donut Poem. Read one, write one. Yes, of course I had plans to, not nefarious plans to obtain a donut, as it was a line in Sweater Poems, if you recall just now, Sweater Poem. I thought I would go get a donut and have it and let it inspire the poem that I write today that we'll read tomorrow about a donut. And maybe I still will, but when I woke up, I just felt like I've had so much sugar. It's Easter weekend. And also, as I've said before, I work a job that's supposed to be Monday we're supposed to be off. It's like an enticement for employing people. But I have worked 5 Mondays, 5 out of 6, the last 6 Mondays I've worked, and it just works out that way sometimes. But it's also exhausting and disheartening because the days are long. But so the point was, I've been coping with poetry, but also a little sugar, maybe a little smoking. And so, I was listening to a podcast, sidebar, Your Honor. I was listening to a podcast called Scared All the Time. They don't need my plugging. Go listen to podcast in A minor with your girl here. Okay. Songwriting podcast, songwriting journey, and a lot of poetry in all of the April episodes. However, I was listening to Scared All the Time, which is sort of a subsidiary of Astonishing Legends. And, they've got a huge fan base, even though they've been doing it for like 6 months. But I'm not complaining. I never complain about that. But they were saying that they were explaining the whole thing behind April Fool's Day, right? Where at one point the calendar changed. The new year had been like the last week of March, first week of April, then it changed to January. But, news traveled slow back then, and all the peasantry or the, morons or what have you that didn't realize it had changed were still celebrating at the usual time. And they were April Fools. But a point that the two gentlemen made was that they decided that April 1st could be a time of forgiveness for if we had New Year's resolutions that we did not keep. I was very half-hearted about consenting to a New Year's resolution. However, there are things I need to improve in life. Eating is one of them. Cutting back on smoking is another. And so they said, hey, April 1st could be the forgiveness day where you kind of start fresh. It's like another new year opportunity. Love that. However, haven't set the world on fire in that category yet, but you know what? We're all works in progress, and I think a little progress here and there is always helpful. So if I eat half my plate of vegetables and do nothing different besides that, that's still good, because that's going to help the immune system and such like. And then on that note, let's read a donut poem, and then we'll write another donut poem for tomorrow. Write along if you like. Send it in. I'll read it. Sometimes that happens. It used to happen a lot more when Instagram was, you saw the people you followed, the people that followed you saw your stuff. Now all they do is take the accounts that really don't need any help because they've got a jillion followers, and then they are like, hey, look at this. And of course, I fall for it at times. I do. Donut poems. First one that I'm going to read of the month, because there will be every Saturday, I believe, a donut read one, write one. Look sharp now, lemon-filled donut. Don't get caught up in the politics. Your song is needful now more than ever. Dig you, gloating mouthful, sunbeams and rain, sticky song cloud of mirth, tenderest bread, your wardrobe gleaming and glazed. Damn! Now you're inside me, and armed with the knowledge that you are right down the street in slightly awkward donut shop, no music, only backroom radio speech in a language exotic, where at first no one appeared, though a lady stood clutching a paper bag at the counter, single donut-sized sack awaiting something or other, where at first the only glass display case inside held a sparse jumble of bags and flat boxes, until I turned a corner to find another massive, lavish with pastry in all love bead hues and sparkling icing. And oh, how genial the lady who attended to my lemon Bismarck. Now armed with this knowledge, I can get on with my work. Thank you. That's our donut poem for today. Perhaps to inform a donut poem for tomorrow. More likely, having read that, now I want a lemon donut. I need to go to Aldi anyway. They don't have them there, but I'll be out in the car. So, that's life. That is all I have on the agenda for today. I hope we've done everything. But join us again tomorrow, Breakfast Poetry Live. There'll be poetry prompts. There'll be poetry fun. I think different prompts every day, in the sense that usually, pardon me, I'd have like a can of beautiful words in the past. I've had the can of the universe deck. Michael McClure of the Jack Kerouac School of Disembodied Poetics teaches us how to make a universe deck. That was a big theme last year. If you want to listen to my sporadic podcast, Poetry Freaks, I explain the universe deck. It's where you find 100 words that suit you, and you can draw them 3 or 4 at a time to get you started on a poem. But this year, I'm kind of combining them all. And I will just take this moment, since it's a 4-day weekend and I have a little time to look at my calendar, what we've got for daily prompts. My husband got me a really cool box. I'm looking over there at it like I'm going to go get it, but I probably won't. High cubes, lots of cubes, like 60 cubes or something. And one of the instructions is to roll them all at once. But I rolled like 4 or 5 of them when we did a prompt on whatever day that was, last Wednesday, just to get some words to get us going. But we'll see. I'm going to look at it and see what other ways I can think of, or that it suggests. Oblique Strategies, a deck of cards from Peter Schmidt and Brian Eno, gift from my first husband. And that is their own universe deck with phrases instead of words of how to get their songwriting going. Fridays will be Poetry Freaks Fridays, the board game that I mentioned. We've got our donut poems on Saturdays. We're going to do the universe deck on Sundays. I created a new one this year, different from last year's, but I don't think I've cut it up. So I'm either going to have to write it on note cards tonight in a frenzy, or use last year's universe deck if I can find it. So there's all kinds of erratic, disorganized artistic fun happening around here. Let's see. We'll have, there's a really cool thing from Two Sylvia's Press called the Poet's Tarot, and it gives you a deck of cards. It's like, I don't do tarot cards really. Not that I just don't do them. But I did buy this because it's for poetry inspiration, and it comes with a really cool book that suggests, hey, you could make this poet. There's some poets in the deck. There's some strategies in the deck. It will give you suggestions for how to use it for inspiration. Choose a poet of the week. Focus on this part of poetry, such as being open to revision or criticism, things like that, which I will confess right here and now that I consider poetry, because of difficult times in the past when I really turned to poetry, I still consider it just a freedom, like my own playroom, so to speak. I didn't want to use the word playroom. Words that use the word play in them, like play date and playful, kind of, we had playful as one of our high cubes and I struggled with it. And I didn't say, I hate the word playful. There's certain words that rub me wrong. One of them is snack. The worst thing about snack is that I work at a school, so you have to say it. The second worst thing, no, this might be the worst thing about snack, is that people like, I don't want to throw Quick Trip under the bus. That's where I get some, well, they don't have their lemon donuts anymore, so let's go ahead and do it. They'll be like, snackle. They'll take this horrible word and then make it worse. Or like, I don't even know, snackitude, things you see in the stores and on the commercials. And I want to just, I'm not going to say, because you know what? Tomorrow is Easter, and let me keep my grace and decorum. All right. Anyway, I went on too long about words I don't like. Anyway, but I like to consider poetry. I can't believe I got back there. I like to consider poetry just an absolute safety place, a safety zone, a place of freedom where I can just say and pour out whatever I want. But also, then I like to use form, and then I like to have fun with words and things like that. But it's hard for me to open it up to criticism, because I feel like, no, it's what it needs to be. Maybe I'm being hard-headed. Maybe I will turn it around. But for now, I'm happy with the way it is. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. Are there any? We're going to do the Baroness as a poetic mood as a prompt on Tuesdays. We haven't had a Tuesday yet because the poetry month just started on Wednesday. But that is all of our ghost story dice, if I can find them. Wednesdays are going to kind of alternate high cubes and ghost story dice, and Thursdays will alternate oblique strategies, poetry freaks, expansion packs. When I was doing episodes of the podcast Poetry Freaks, based it on the board game, with different poetic moods and words. All right, blah 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 blah, abracadabra. Thank you for tuning in to Breakfast Poetry Live. Send a poem if you write one, no matter if it's from the prompt or what, and I will read it on the show. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you tomorrow.